Welcome to the IES overview of our new revolutionary tool for architectural analysis. Specifically, of course, focused at architects. This is meant to be used during your schematic and design development stages to help you answer questions about your building. When we look at Gaia in the tier of the tools that we have inside of IES already, we have tools for engineers, which are down at the bottom with VE Pro, and then tools that are very basic up at the top. But VE-Gaia is kind of in the middle of these two, where it's going to allow you to have a level of customization, understanding differences with construction or specific details, but also quick iterative feedback so that you can get rapid answers about your design that are going to tell you where may I make some changes or what could I do to improve this before I ever have to start talking to my engineer. And the early stage of design is really where we can make the biggest impacts for the least amount of money, whether it's how we site the building, what's the orientation of that building, starting to guide our client at the beginning about what could we do with rainfall and rainwater recycling, what would happen if we wanted to use natural resources like solar panels, or just looking at the amount of mass that is in our building when it comes to the tons of concrete that we're going to be using on the site. What would happen if we made part of that recyclable? And all of these types of questions are what can be answered when we use the VE-Gaia tools. So what specific tools do we have? Things with climate, bioclimate, which will be in a following video. It's a great tool to use, looking at natural resources, daylighting, building loads, energy and carbon output from our building. But again, it's about understanding at these earliest stages what edits you can make that will greatly improve your building performance. So how we go about this and how we bring our model in from a typical three-dimensional program SketchUp is what we're going to be going over today. We're going to use geometry that we have created inside of SketchUp. If you need more information on our SketchUp plugin, please go to our website under Learning and under the white papers for more information on how to build your models. So once you've set up your model correctly and you have found your rooms in your model using the red button here, you're going to export your geometry to the full virtual environment. VE-Gaia actually sits on top of VE Pro and uses that interface and the same link, but it is not dependent on the modules to run, so you are able to buy it as its own standalone program. So after pressing the button, we're going to have our geometry exported into the full virtual environment. Here we can see the geometry we brought in from SketchUp, and I'm just going to do a preview here using our model viewer. One thing that we do suggest is that if you are going to be importing lots of geometry through Revit or SketchUp, which most architects are, it's a good idea to have the Model It module as well, because there's going to be many times that the geometry won't transfer through 100% correctly and you're going to want to make edits. You'll also need that to make edits to your geometry if you do not want to leave the VE and you want to change your shading strategies or window sizes or shading objects on your building. So let's just choose one of these types of analysis under the Gaia heading for our first example. We're going to look at climate metrics. And if I just go under the climate button here, I'm going to pull this up and it's going to give me some options. Here I can set my location and select my weather file. I may have already done this when I was inside of SketchUp or Revit, but I also have the option to do it here as well. The other thing that you'll see come up is this little Notes tab, where we can start to change or add notes for anyone who may be working on the project with us. So for example, if you had adjusted a specific weather file for a very specific site, perhaps the elevation was much higher than even its closest weather file, you can add that note here that you have worked on it and that you have completed that step. The other thing that you can see if we go up to this little calendar button here, if I toggle this on, you're going to see the date at which time this step was completed, and you're going to check it off to remind yourself that you have completed this step, as well as who did it. So with multiple people working on the project, you're going to be aware of who did what and when they did that. Okay.
Okay, the next thing that we're going to pull up is our report. And if I have run this previously, so you're going to see my name, and this has already been checked off, but if this is the first time you're running it, it's going to show blank here. We're also going to click on here for our headline report, and it's going to run through and give us information on our climate. And this information is extremely valuable when you're starting to design at the earliest stages. It's going to give you feedback on not only what is the site, so here we know that we have a 4A for our climate group, but what exactly does that mean? It's going to tell us this is a mixed humid climate. It's going to use a different scale and also tell us this is mild winters, fully humid, no dry season with a warm summer. And in this case, we're looking at London. We're using a file from Heathrow. It'll also give us design tips like winter is potentially most dominant. The design must minimize heating energy, as well as information related to what are our warmest and coolest months? What are our warmest 6 months? What are we dealing with moisture in the air? What is the annual mean speed of the wind? What is the direction of that wind? As well as what resources are available regarding rainfall over the year. If we're looking at some sort of strategy with rainwater recycling, this is important details to have when you're getting started on a project. Okay, so just to close this out, well, one thing before we do that is when I actually click on one of these graphs, you're going to see that it'll open it in one of my Explorer windows. So this is, I'm using Google Chrome, so that will pop up for me, or Internet Explorer. And you can actually copy and paste these graphs out, which is great, and they don't have any of the IES logos on them, and they're very high resolution. So that if you're using this for a report for one of your clients, you can copy and paste these images out very easily, as well as save them or put them in other locations, such as PowerPoint reports or inside of Photoshop to do additional editing. And we're going to close out this report. We can always pull it back up, but then the next point here, which is very important, is analyze. So not only are we going to look at that report, but we're going to analyze what did this tell us? How should this inform our design decision? And we can add these notes here. So maybe natural ventilation is going to be a good option. And this will be something we can start to look at. But it just reminds us that as we're going along this project, we want to be aware of everything that could be a good option and other things that may or may not be. And doing this at the early stage, we really know where we're going with this project. Okay, and once this will the project, you can also go to File, Save, and this will remind you what you had worked on previously, so that the next time you open this project, you do not have to start from scratch again. And then we're going to follow the same process to go through all of the different navigators. And in the following videos that you'll see on VE-Gaia, we're going to go much more in depth about what are these different navigators, whether it's the bioclimate analysis, water, materials, daylighting. So certainly watch the next videos.
For further information, you can find us using these links.